In today's Reddit story, my entitled family wanted to take over my late grandma's cabin to make money off it, and when I refused, they literally broke in and trashed the place. I never imagined I'd be writing something like this, but after everything that happened with my family, I needed to get this off my chest. If you've ever had entitled family members, you'll probably understand where I'm coming from, but trust me, this whole situation went way beyond what I ever expected. Let me start with a bit of background. My grandma was one of the most important people in my life. Growing up, she was the one person I could always count on. My mom passed away when I was really young, and my dad remarried a couple of years later. He and my stepmom were, well, let's just say, not exactly the nurturing type. They had the kids together, my stepbrother and stepsister, and they always made sure their little, blended family felt complete. Complete without me, that is. I was often the odd one out. My dad and stepmom didn't seem to care much about what I wanted or needed. I guess I was a reminder of my mom, and they wanted to focus on their new family. So, I spent most of my time with my grandma at her small cabin by the lake. That cabin became my safe haven, a place where I could escape, feel loved, and just be myself. Now, the cabin wasn't anything fancy. It was a bit old, a little worn down, but it had charm. My grandma and I would spend hours sitting on the porch, watching the sunset over the water. We'd fish off the dock, go for long walks in the woods, and she'd tell me stories about her younger days. Some of my happiest memories are tied to that place, and I knew it meant just as much to her. Fast forward to about a year ago. My grandma passed away after a long illness. It hit me hard. She was my rock, the one person who had always been there for me. But in her will, she left the cabin to me. That place was her most prized possession, and the fact that she trusted me with it, it meant the world to me. I thought this would be the start of a new chapter, where I could honor her memory and keep the cabin in the family. Oh, how wrong I was. After the funeral, things were quiet. For a while, I didn't hear much from my dad or stepmom, which wasn't unusual. They never really went out of their way to include me in family events. But about 2 months later, out of nowhere, I get a call from my dad. He invites me over for dinner, which was strange in itself. They never invited me over. My stepmom had always made it clear I wasn't really part of their new family. But I figured, maybe this was a peace offering. Maybe they wanted to finally have a relationship with me now that grandma was gone. So I went. Big mistake. Dinner started off awkward, as expected. My stepmom was trying way too hard to be nice, offering me wine, asking about my job, stuff she never cared about before. My dad was quiet, just sitting there watching me, which made me even more uncomfortable. I knew something was up, but I didn't know what yet. After we finished eating, my dad finally got to the point. He starts talking about the cabin, asking me what I'm planning to do with it. I tell him that I'm going to fix it up a bit and keep it as a getaway spot, to honor grandma's memory. He nods, but I can see he's not thrilled. Then my stepmom jumps in. She starts saying how it's such a waste for me to keep the cabin just for myself. She says it would make much more sense to turn it into a rental property, an Airbnb or something, and start making some money off of it. I could tell they had rehearsed this whole thing. She was laying it on thick, talking about how we could work together as a family to renovate it, rent it out, and split the profits. I sat there in shock. They weren't interested in the cabin because it meant something to them. They saw it as a cash cow, and they didn't even try to hide it. They acted like I was being selfish for not immediately jumping on board with their family business plan. I told them straight up that I wasn't interested. I explained that the cabin had sentimental value to me and that I didn't want to turn it into a business. I wanted to keep it as a private place where I could go to feel connected to grandma. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought they'd understand, maybe even respect my decision. I was wrong. Again, my stepmom flipped. She went on this whole rant about how I was being ungrateful, how I didn't appreciate what I had, and how I was wasting an opportunity to do something good for the family. My dad, who had been quiet up until now, finally chimed in. He said something like, "You don't have the money to fix that place up. We're trying to help you. Help me. Are you kidding?" I told them I didn't need their help, and I definitely didn't need them turning my grandma's cabin into a money-making scheme. I left the dinner that night furious, but I figured that would be the end of it. I thought they'd let it go once they saw I wasn't budging. I should have known better. The next few weeks were a nightmare. My phone was constantly blowing up with texts and calls from my dad and stepmom. At first, they tried to reason with me. They kept bringing up how much money the cabin could bring in, how it was a win-win for everyone, and how I was being unreasonable. When I didn't respond, they turned up the guilt trip. My stepmom sent me this long, dramatic text about how they needed the extra income for their retirement. She said I was being selfish for keeping the cabin to myself when it could benefit the whole family. My dad, meanwhile, would send short, cold texts like, "Think about what Grandma would have wanted, and you're making a mistake." I ignored them for the most part. I didn't want to engage, because I knew it would only make things worse, but then they started showing up at my apartment. I'd get home from work and find my dad sitting in his car outside, waiting for me, or my stepmom would knock on my door, acting like she was just in the neighborhood and wanted to talk. The final straw came when my dad tried to ambush me at work. He showed up at my office unannounced and demanded to talk to me. My co-workers were all staring, and I was mortified. I told him we'd talk later, just to get him to leave, but I knew then that things were escalating way beyond what I could handle. I decided to get away for a weekend and spend some time at the cabin to clear my head. I figured some time alone by the lake would help me relax and maybe give me some clarity on how to handle this whole situation. So, I packed a bag and drove out to the cabin, ready for some peace and quiet. When I got there, I noticed something was off immediately. The front door was slightly ajar, which was weird because I was sure I had locked it the last time I was there. My heart started racing, and I cautiously stepped inside. That's when I saw it. My dad and stepmom had been there. I don't know how they got in. Maybe they had a spare key from years ago, or maybe they had broken in. But either way, they had been there. The furniture was moved around. Some of Grandma's old things were packed up in boxes, and there were paint samples and renovation plans laid out on the table. They had already started making decisions about their cabin. I was furious. I called my dad right then and there, demanding an explanation. He acted like he didn't know what I was talking about at first, but eventually, he admitted that they had gone to the cabin to help me get started on the renovations. He said they were just trying to move things along because I was dragging my feet. I told him to stay away from the cabin, and that if they ever set foot on the property again, I'd call the police. After that confrontation, things got quiet. My dad and stepmom backed off, at least for a while. I changed the locks on the cabin and installed a security system, because I didn't trust them not to come back. I thought I was finally done with them, but then, a few months later, I got to the local sheriff. Apparently, someone had broken into the cabin again. This time, they hadn't just moved things around. They had done real damage. The windows were broken, the furniture was smashed, and some of my grandma's belongings were gone. I was devastated. The one place that had always felt like home was now a wreck. I knew it had to be my dad and stepmom, but without proof, there was nothing I could do. The sheriff said it looked like a burglary, but I knew better. So here I am, months later, still trying to process everything. My relationship with my dad and stepmom is completely destroyed. They've cut me off, claiming that I'm the one who tore the family apart by not sharing the cabin with them. I haven't spoken to them since the break-in, and honestly, I don't plan to. The cabin is being repaired, but it'll never be the same. The memories I had of that place are tainted by what they did. But in the end, I stood my ground. I didn't let them take something that meant so much to me, even though they tried every trick in the book to break me down. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that family doesn't always have your best interests at heart. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love and support you will turn on you the moment they see an opportunity to benefit themselves. And when that happens, you have to stand up for yourself, no matter how hard it is. Thanks for reading. And if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. Some things are worth holding onto, no matter the cost.